After hearing that, Cho Il-sum trembled all over because he was worried about him. Ju Igul, has my little brother been taken down by your inn owner? Isn't it because he suddenly came to my place and started digging around? Unable to contain his anger, the flower house owner jumped out and just wanted to avenge his brother. But the male protagonist still sitting quietly, observing his movements. Energy poured out of his body and his arm was pressed straight to his face to throw him. Lee JaHa also calmly raised his hand to protest. His powerful shot hit his entire body. Cho Il-sum's entire body was knocked far away. Even so, this guy seemed to be stronger than his younger brother, so he was not harmed at all. Having regained his composure, he began to become more cautious. Why was that guy able to block my attack? As expected of this Nyat Duong's top scoundrel, you're a real jerk. What is this? Not long ago he was just a guy selling cheap pho. Lee JaHa saw that his opponent remained silent, so he also looked puzzled. Why don't you fight again? If that's the case, then it's my turn? Cho Il-sum was startled by his somewhat powerful voice. Regaining his mind, he continued to use his energy and attack. The male lead didn't have to worry because of that. He only needed one hand to fight. His body is now bulging everywhere and continues to dominate. I don't know where Cho Il-sum was sent flying. I just saw him crash into the plaster wall, the straw and mud, then let out a loud howl. From there to here it must have been about 50 meters, no joke. As expected, this also made Lee JaHa become curious about himself. I didn't know I was so strong right now. Blood started to flow out and the coughing sound continued. Cho Il-sum dragged his heavy body closer to him. He started moaning, asked how he knew martial arts. But that question was meaningless in this situation. Lee JaHa bent down and reminded the flower owner to wake up. The first guy, it's like someone who knows martial arts, but a restaurant owner like me shouldn't know why. The more he talked, the tighter his arm became, making his throat almost get pinched by a cat. You're a barbarian who not only trafficked people, even brutally killing so many innocent people. It's truly more disgusting than I can bear. Let Il-sum understand what those words mean, and he keeps asking for his life. A bit tired, so he continued to throw his body hard to the ground. The whole flower building almost shook because of that force. But the servants below now felt it and became worried. In just a blink of an eye, they surrounded the two corridors of the second floor. These bad guys, the owner of the building died and just appeared to make a scene. But it seems like no one in the group dares to say a word. Hack Cat Gang leader has changed his mind and will no longer establish a gang in Nyat Duong district. Look at these guys. This Cho family sets an example. If anyone dares to form a gang again, they will face consequences like this. After hearing this, everyone's face was completely blank without a single drop of blood remaining. They had no choice but to. The stalls were neatly arranged to open the way for the male lead to leave. Some people started to gossip because they realized Lee JaHa's identity. Isn't that guy the owner of the pho restaurant in the district? Some people don't believe it because everyone knows that a few days ago that boss was beaten up by Cha Sung-T's people. He just changed his outfit, you can tell right away by looking at him. It was too painful for my ears, so I had to turn around and answer. You guys are right. I am the owner of that restaurant. Then the guys who weren't afraid of death started rolling their eyes as if they wanted to eat salad with the main male lead. Has this given you more courage? Anyone who wants to follow Cho Il-sum's mistakes and follow Cho Il-sum down to the royal election should step out. Because I will help that person go a long way to meet him. The attitude from before has changed. Changed quickly, the faces of the other guys began to cringe. Although some of them were very scared, they bravely spoke up to ask. Why did you kill the owner of the castle? So? That bastard didn't need any reason to kill people before. After answering, Lee JaHa turned around and left without letting anyone ask any more questions. A moment later he also returned home and Sung-T is waiting more than me for mom to come home from the market. The person who told her to kill Cho Il-sum, why did she come back so early? When he heard me say that it was over, he didn't really believe it. If you don't believe it, go check it out yourself. It's obvious that it hasn't been going for long, but why is it so fast? So? Besides, even if he killed Cho Il-sum, how could his body be so intact? How did this Lee JaHa end up meeting such a special fate? Because it was already late at night, he immediately went to rest without saying anything else. And didn't forget to remind Sung Ti to remember to clean the house, wash dishes, and clean up before leaving. You bastard. How dare you tell me about Cha Sung Ti's troubles? If you come to this house in frustration, how can I clean it if there's nothing left? So an important matter is finished at this time. Lee JaHa begins to have time to practice internal skills. In his mind, he is recalling the details of the empty battle with the master of the flower house. Before. My strength has now increased significantly. I cannot miss such a precious opportunity. Just like that, I continue to forge heavenly pearls to absorb them in my body. For a few days in a row, because the restaurant had few customers, Lee JaHa didn't know what to do. All the time he stayed in his room to focus on cultivating Cha Sung Ti for a few days. Nowadays, I probably don't have much work to do, so I can't find it. Outside on the street, people are now talking about Cho Il-sum's death. I heard that a few days ago he was killed by Lee JaHa. It's unbelievable. And I don't see where the restaurant owner went. He must have escaped. I haven't seen him for a few days. Could it be that he committed suicide and died? Speaking of Sung Ti, he was very happy when he heard a few things. That story. It turns out that today he also came to Nam Chin to invite him to celebrate. And he has now broken through the goal and reached the stage of shame. Nam Chin feels quite calm. It's usually because in his previous life he also successfully cultivated these stages. However, the current rate of accumulating and absorbing internal energy is really still too fast. It's no longer a prediction that I can be completely sure of. I'm sure that I will be stronger than my previous life. I'm so happy that I'm still wincing when I see how messy the room is. It's also because of the body waste accumulated during the breakthrough process. Just like that. But in return for having to endure this stench, I got a worthy result. My body is clean enough to practice martial arts. While thinking about this, Sung Ti just walked in. Vomited continuously because of so many unpleasant smells. It's terrible. What did you do to become like that? Lee JaHa saw a guest coming, so he took the initiative to greet him politely. Seeing the host, Sung Ti was about to vomit because he thought he had finished eating and spit it out on the spot. Because he was already there. For a long time, the male lead actually felt very normal. The closer he got to get a chair to sit, the other person had to pick up his slippers and run out. The young man's house was about to get married, but he could do this. This is so terrible that surely you didn't just bring it up here once, right? After saying that, Sung Ti always came to Lee JaHa's door. After that, because she couldn't smell it, Sung Ti was forced to let her escort the male lead back to his own house. Immediately, the servants prepared a bathtub full of herbs to scrub clean. Now here, Lee JaHa feels so relaxed and comfortable. But just thinking back to what happened before makes him feel a bit embarrassed. Even though he knew that his martial arts skills were superior to his, that guy still pulled out a knife and threatened that if he got too close he would kill himself. Indeed, there is nothing better than living cleanly and neatly. Male protagonist. I had to frown when I didn't want to remember. Suddenly there was a soft sound of the door opening outside. This caught my attention a bit. I didn't expect that this year's beauty would have to serve as a concubine. So, Chaehyung, why are you here? Without any hesitation, this woman was ordered to serve Lee JaHa bathing. The main reason was that Sung Ti personally sent her. If you are done, I will help me wipe my body. Even though I just said it, my face looked like it was very reluctant. Lee JaHa also understood that and he reminded me never to come here again. I'll tell Sung Ti again so you don't need to do these things. Didn't you clearly say that you sell turmeric and not flowers? Please continue to maintain your motto. After listening, Chaehyung also embarrassed and unable to respond. The male lead doesn't understand why this new apprentice has so much free time. He's always doing random things. The female sees that there's nothing else to do, so she has to bow down and ask permission. Before leaving, she did not forget to apologize for previously calling Nam a poor beggar. Okay, anyway, it's been a long time since I forgot. Why did you let him be so strong? Let others torture you like that? Chaehyung started asking questions, making him more confused. Then he temporarily came up with a few moral maxims. Fighting only gives him an excuse to take revenge. A gentleman doesn't pay for 10 years. How many times have you heard of it? Not yet. The revenge of the little innkeeper started with the beating. Is there really such a saying in this world, sir? No, there is no such thing, I'm just saying just leave it alone. After listening, Chaehyung was dumbfounded as if he didn't understand anything. So he also had a beautiful memory with this woman for the first time in the bathroom. In fact, Lee JaHa understood immediately. What are the things that Sung T did? How dare you use a beauty on me, I still have my belt intact. I think back to the gossip with illuminating light's subordinates, so now I'm still afraid of meeting people the opposite sex. The first sentence is that the beauties surrounding him were all arranged and invited by him, in order to make things easier for him. Just thinking about that makes me want to go back to that time and strangle that guy to death. Thinking of this, Sung T kicked in the river mouth and shouted loudly that there was a fire. Lee JaHa calmly replied, "It's just a house fire, that's why you have to be so loud. The place of fire is your chicken noodle shop." This time it was the male lead's turn to panic even more than the one who reported the news. After that, he also had to quickly prepare his clothes to run back to watch. There were a lot of viewers here and a few of Cho's people. Sampyeong too. This guy is really terrible and doesn't care about anyone. He declared that if anyone was like Lee JaHa, the outcome would be like this. Then he also spoke up to remind the thief that's bad. Behind my house there is also the grave of that person's big brother. You should first dig it up and hide it somewhere else. After saying that, Lee JaHa showed his face and cursed Sampyeong as a traitor. Gynecology. But it seems this guy still hasn't recognized your new appearance. So he had to ask again for your identity. Burning down my house and still here asking if the cave is that stupid? What are these pants, why do you poor guy look like this? Someone stepped up and pointed at the male lead. So you brought me here just because you wanted to kill a pho restaurant owner? Sampyeong trembled and said yes because he was not talented enough to do that. The other person continued to talk. You brothers established a gang right here in Nyat Duong district, right? If so, why can't a hotel owner be killed? If you can't do that, why the hell are you going to open all kinds of sects? After listening, Sampyeong continued to stay silent because he couldn't answer. If I kill him, people in the streets will laugh at me. In short, you're the one who's going to kill you. Is your ability so weak that you can't kill the female pho seller? If that's the case, then I won't have sex with you anymore. After listening, Sampyeong was speechless because he didn't know what to do. Lee JaHa also agreed with that point of view. As a human being, you must have a heart, Sampyeong. Don't rely on anyone, it's better to act directly yourself. Then Lee JaHa criticized whoever loses by punching each other will be burned alive right here. These words made the mysterious guy happy. The owner of a restaurant is quite polite, isn't he? He also purposely went to the front to give his opinion. I am also a member of the gang, so I will bear witness to the battle between the two of us. Then the two of them agreed and started preparing to take action. Although Sampyeong was scared, because of his hatred for killing his two brothers, he couldn't back down. As for Lee JaHa, he understood that that guy would definitely wait for him to finish fighting and get tired before he would jump in and eat. As soon as it happened, the fire became more intense, increasing the excitement for viewers. Looking at the inheritance his grandfather left behind, the male lead expressed regret. For now, ignoring that, he also focused on solving the problem. The last name is Cho in front of his eyes. At this moment he is so confused that he does not dare to attack. The two people who have not fought yet are saying a few words to make them more excited. What are you doing? Pulled out his sword. For someone like you, I don't need to use weapons. Sampyeong listened and cursed him as a bastard and then raised his sword in front of him. Then he ran in and slashed a hit very hard. This guy's appearance was so clumsy that it exposed a lot of loopholes. Seeing that, Lee JaHa went behind him and immediately punched him in the ribs. Drool started to flow came out and agonizing pain rushed in. Sampyeong's body fell to the ground in the blink of an eye. The acting was too deep, I didn't even bother to use any force. I was angry and now I lost face, so the other guy jumped up to respond. The sword in his hand kept waving wildly. You look like a rough person. Lee JaHa didn't bother to move but tightly grasped the arm holding the sword. I just admired his face and made a few comments. Looking at you, I feel like the two brothers I just killed. Indeed, people like you need to disappear from this earth. Quickly, the male protagonist snatched the sword and drew a line down the middle of his body. He didn't have time to scream, but blood splattered all around. Then he also collapsed from the slash wound. Too deep and dangerous. Then the whole person collapsed right in front of him. Countless commentators watching were admiring. Did he kill Sampyeong that easily? Is it really the name of the restaurant owner? As for Lee JaHa, he felt uncomfortable because that guy burned down his house. That stranger had to praise the male lead for being a skilled martial artist. I acknowledge victory of people in this life and death match. After saying that, he also took off his hat and turned around to leave. But maybe Lee JaHa won't let him return unscathed. He used a duplicitous tone. You said no and then asked to leave? He started to make a terrible face. Why do you dare to speak like that to a member of the Black Panther? I thought the other person would be scared, but how could that be? Lee JaHa didn't care what tigers were and he just held his sword straight at him. Someone who came here to kill me actually dared to burn my house and still want to leave. Don't think that just saying a few words will end the matter with me. But that guy ignored his face and ran away faster. Honestly, he acted like that and still had the shame to hide. Immediately the male lead jumped up high to catch him. He kicked the clouds and cut the wind. His body was graceful in the air like a tornado. The movements looked so skillful as if he had done them 1,000 times. When the other guy saw that his head was being blocked, he was startled and stopped. He was so bitter that he put all his internal energy into his palm. Then he shouted loudly and threw his palms in an attempt to sneak attack. A rush of internal energy rushed towards the location where Lee JaHa was standing. When he was about to arrive, he pretended to turn around. His eyes didn't look like he was scared at all. The sword cut the strength of the Black Panther in half. But not only that, the hood on his body was torn off. Perhaps he only had time to look at Lee JaHa with so many wishes. The body is now like a bamboo branch swaying in the wind. A cut line was exposed and blood splattered everywhere. Looking at the body collapsed, the male lead felt a bit regretful. Maybe because he wanted to capture them alive to get information, but he accidentally used too much force. At this moment, the fire seemed to be about to die out like the ashes of the Cho brothers. That collapse was probably a beginning. A new force is about to emerge in Nyat Duong town. A large number of other people came just to confirm the story of Lee JaHa's handling of social bosses. Everyone looked scared because they all knew about it before. The male lead is a bad guy. Including Cha Sung-ti, he was also shocked because he saw the match. It's unbelievable that he killed all 3 of the Cho brothers. And yet, surprisingly, this person also looked at the corpse of the other guy. I don't know what to think anymore. Who is that guy? Why have we never met him? Lee JaHa now turned to look at the boys following him, making them cower. You guys burned down other people's houses, now I'm going to burn yours too. After hearing that, everyone was scared and continuously regretted it. Acted rashly. Countless loud voices with the intention of asking him to spare his life. But it seems that Lee JaHa will not let this matter go. Cha Sung-ti had to speak up, probably because of the unpleasant stench. They burned it to lighten the atmosphere. When you saw that smell, I also intended to do the same. So countless people started to talk about it. Horse smell like that? Surely someone has a stomach ache after eating and then spits it out. The main Nan heard it and was so bitter that he just wanted to cut out Cha Sung-ti's tongue to relieve his anger. Then he also came up with a better idea. After that, he called Cha Sung-ti back with the superior words. You and these guys should work together to rebuild my house. Seeing him say he doesn't want it makes me feel threatened. It seems like I've been spoiling you too much lately, right? Or shall I impale your dog's life? Father Sung-ti was depressed. If we rebuilt it, we would make it more grand than before. This place is also large over there. We will build the 2nd floor and then add a rockery. Lee JaHa also contributed to building a wall and building a garden, so in the future I can also practice martial arts and grill meat to eat. You mean a sect, not a restaurant, right? My idea is to make a sect similar to a restaurant. Cha Sung-ti made it simple but was agonizing over the name. He thought quickly and called it JaHa Training Inn. The male lead temporarily agreed and did not forget to remind them to retain good workers to form unions. Knowing that he had just killed a member of the Black Panther, Father Sung-Ti warned them that he would not leave it alone. Then I will deal with all of them, as long as you do your job well. Next, I have to ask what that bunch of interconnected connections should be called. Plus very quickly the name How Moon has been called by you. This is the first sect that we created, it has finally been done. Father Sung-Ti mumbled again, not understanding what it means. If so in the future I have to call you master. That's not very important to Lee JaHa. Whether you call or not, you still have to call in the future. Cha Sung-Ti still didn't believe that the male lead was Lee JaHa, so he also wanted to be curious about a few things. Of course he was willing to answer all questions. It took a while for him to speak. Why are you spare my life? I've thought a lot about this but can't explain it. But it seems like this question is easier to answer than asking the three names named Cho. Lee JaHa answered naturally, just because I wanted to. Just torturing you. Cha Sung-Ti was so relieved when he received the answer. So that's really good, it's better than dying. While waiting to go home, the male lead also had to temporarily stay at Cha Sung-Ti's house. Even though it was late, he still continued to practice diligently. Internal martial arts had now also increased to a level beyond expectations. It was also thanks to this hard work. His past life saved him many lives. The owner of the castle himself is also pondering over the blueprints. He has had people dig and beautify the ground of his land. Lee JaHa. Not only that, but he also strictly directed the supervision of public works. Everything went smoothly without any problems. For more than 10 days Lee JaHa was in seclusion, so he let very comfortable person. While working on a few more articles, Father Sung-Ti came to deliver the news. Who did you say wanted to meet me? It was the Black Cat Gang who received treatment from my father. It's the Cho family. There are only 2 people like you who also asked for advice, so what should we prepare to welcome? First, let's meet to say hello. Is that you? Are you planning on fighting them? The male lead knows that those people came to demand tribute for not reporting to the government and also wanted to invite him to become boss. If that's the case, what should we do? The current situation is very difficult for me. I can't eat the Black Cat Gang. For you it's difficult, but for me it's as easy as eating candy. Does that mean you want to leave my life and death alone? They will definitely kill me before touching you, so don't worry. But how can I die that easily? After hearing these words, Cha Sung-Ti still didn't believe it. Then the 2 calmly went out to the guests to say hello. Seeing Lee JaHa, the others also began to pay attention. Everyone just assumed that I was busy asking for permission to go first. After the instructions, Cha Sung-Ti was told to let him handle it alone. The 2 people from Black Cat Union realized that now was the time to introduce themselves. The skinny and hungry guy took the initiative to raise his voice. I am Jaeon Peng from Golden Peak office of Black Cat Union. The other fat guy is Han Go-wook as well at Golden Peak office. But Lee JaHa's silent attitude made them impatient, not knowing who we were. How dare that guy be so arrogant? I heard you were the one who killed the Cho guys, right? Jaeon Peng had to raise his voice. The male lead also responded coldly, that's right. Why are you guys asking me that? Are those people with the surname Cho some kind of cousin to you? Both shook their heads. Where did this brat get so confident? If you kill those bad guys, do you think the sky is the same? Or does it have someone behind it? Both of these guys had the same thought. The male lead also seemed to be in a hurry and wanted to know what they were doing here. But still no one spoke up, just being cautious. Look at these guys, I knew right away that I wanted to ask for money. Finally, the skinny guy also introduced the topic on my behalf. The Cho family's junior brothers were the people who were allowed to form their own faction by the Black Cat Union, but they died at your hands. If you touch the Black Cat Union, it will be difficult for you to survive. Your actions are like blocking our way. Lee JaHa also replied jokingly, I completely understand what you mean. You want me to bribe you like those bad guys named Cho, right? Sure enough, Jaeon Peng was satisfied. So you are a sensible person. First, let's raise a glass to this relationship. I immediately called Min Min out to serve the wine. Hearing the boss call her name, she took the initiative to go in. Quickly bring that low-class wine and some more snacks for me. After listening, this person doesn't understand a thing. Thinking back to the first time we met, I immediately remembered that the wine was first-rate. After that, he also bowed and asked permission to go out for 5 minutes. Han Go-wook knew that drinking would not do his job, so he also spoke. Let's drink, but I think we should be clear first. At most, it's just a few drinks, what else do you want? After listening, the fat guy got angry and cursed at Lee JaHa. He's a guy with eyes that can't see Tai-sun. But it seems like looking at his attitude, he shut his face as if he had said the last thing. Are you doing this because you want to fight with me? Where did this brat get that confidence? Who is backing it? I'll ask you one more question. Can that Black Cat Union pedestal save you too today? Hearing these words makes me fat and skinny cringe and my face turns black. If I kill those 3 guys, you have to understand that I'm not afraid of the Black Cat Union. Oh, of course I forgot these 2 will have higher strength than those people named Cho, right? Actually, those guys are very boring to me. Lee JaHa gave Min time when he brought up the bait to aim. If he didn't listen, he would kill them. But just as he finished speaking, the door opened. The room was slightly opened. So they had to quickly handle the situation in a reasonable way. Min went in and carried all sorts of things from the forest under the sea. The space was too quiet. Made her worried. Then I tried to open the curtain to introduce things. But the other 2 guys were faster. We would talk politely to the gang leader and pretend that nothing had happened. Really? If that's the case, then those guys they think are really worth dying for. Of course, there's nothing wrong with it. Jaeon Pung and Han Go-wook laughed loudly to avoid this matter. After eating and drinking enough, the 2 guys of Black Cat Union hurriedly left. In their appearance, it seemed like they were very impatient. Cha Sung-ti looked at it and felt like it was okay to let them go like that. Lee JaHa commented that if he killed someone, the other sect would definitely bring troops immediately. It doesn't matter who manages the district, as long as they obey. The character that you have to be careful that there are only 12 divine generals around here. For the time being, you shouldn't attract attention to him. After thinking about it, he planned to go into seclusion for a while, so he told Cha Sung-ti a few things. You should recover all the assets of the landlords and manage them well. Temporarily, the position of general manager of Oman will be given to you. I will warn him very carefully if he dares to say anything. The fund manager will be dismissed immediately. What will happen after being dismissed? Obviously, the meat must be eaten while it's hot. Where did you come up with such a ridiculous rule? The rules are created by me because I am the master of the sect. Before leaving, I did not forget to congratulate him on being promoted to the general manager. The time has come too late, even you have come. It's time for him to get rich. Although he accepted a position almost as high as the male leads, it seems like he didn't really want it. As expected, if he didn't accept it, he would die, but if he accepted meat, it would be easy to die. What a misery. Living in the streets is really tiring. Before starting the main work, Lee JaHa had to make some vegetables and noodles. As soon as he entered the restaurant, he immediately met Kum Chu Liang, who was eating and drinking. He recognized someone he knew, so he also proactively sat down. Let's eat together for fun. Probably because of the previous engagement, the 2 of you still haven't had time to meet each other. Tunhi went out to ask him what he wanted to eat. It's hot. So Lee JaHa calmly ate and drank something cool to nourish his liver. The master blacksmith began to ask about the previous events. Have you dealt with Cho Il-sum, Ju Igul and even Cho Sampyeong? If the Black Cat Union doesn't send troops, then surely many people will die. Was he originally like that? Thinking back, in his previous life he had a grand protest against the collection of protection money from the Cho brothers. To answer the question just now, Lee JaHa asserted that he would solve it alone. Everything without affecting anyone. Hearing this sentence, Kum Chu Liang still couldn't believe it. You can stop the Black Cat Union alone. Is this really true? It's hard to believe, but it's hard to believe that the owner of the inn, Lee JaHa, single-handedly dealt with the 3 Cho brothers. So that's the story for now. Please invite me to this meal today because I'm planning to eat. What a grand meal. You mean the owner of a poor inn will have to pay? What's so poor? Aren't you the master of JaHa clan? What is JaHa clan? Lee JaHa already founded it, right? Duksu, the owner of the restaurant, held a bowl of noodles and spoke up. The main character also said that he was a member of his sect, then the other person became surprised. I don't remember joining, right? Everyone I know automatically becomes a member of JaHa clan. That's why you must always give free food to your master, remember? This is clearly impossible when Duxu grabbed the bowl of noodles and made an annoyed face. Are you trying to play a joke on me? The two were having food when a loud voice from outside asked the male lead to leave. Not sure who this mysterious guy was, but he seemed so dangerous. The look in his eyes, the guy looked very sharp and didn't seem to be impressed at all. Duxu spoke softly again, if the sect master calls the day after tomorrow, please go out quickly. He also did not forget to remind the male protagonist to always be careful. Kidneys. As for Kum Chu lying, due to long-term bone and joint pain, his back now feels like it's about to break. It's clear that these two people are abdicating their responsibility to the Master JaHa clan. Finally I had to show up alone. Being a sect master like me is really troublesome. Suddenly thunder came from somewhere and it started pouring rain. When that mysterious person saw Lee JaHa also spoke up. Are you the one who killed Nung Jisok of Black Good Leopard? This name sounds familiar, I think I've heard it somewhere before. Thinking back, I can still think of the weak name that happened when I fought with Cho Sampyeong. Admitted that he was the culprit. The other person continued to introduce himself as a member of the Black Panther, Wee Sonwoo. Lee JaHa recognized him immediately because he was killed by him in his previous life. He looks young but he's a real sword demon twin. Wee Sonwoo asked him to recall the story that killed Nung Jisok. The reason the male lead gave was that he burned down his house. It is indeed a reasonable reason to kill people, but thanks to that, you will also die. People in the world are selfless. Just like your hair, in this world there's nothing you can do. You bastard, I'll cut off your beak first. The sound of thunder continued to rumble like a signal for a battle to begin. Wee Sonwoo knocked off his hat and then rushed towards the male lead. Even though the speed was very fast, it couldn't make it difficult for him. Taking advantage of the heavy rain, there were a few tricks that Lee JaHa how to use it. He pushed his foot hard on the ground and then threw the rainwater straight at his opponent's face. As soon as he fought, Lee JaHa also understood that the sword demon twin had two people. And one of them was Ji Yu Yong-soo. As expected, Wee Sonwoo's name is the sword demon twin, so he always has two weapons in both hands. The two people continuously collide with each other, but no one is willing to give up. At this point, Lee JaHa just started to step back to assess the opponent's capabilities. Why is this guy's counterattack and concealment skills so high? And there is definitely someone hiding around here. While the situation was heating up, suddenly Father Sung Ti ran to report something. But the male lead asked his biological brother to stand away because his opponent is an anonymous expert. It seems like Cha Sung Ti doesn't care about this very much. He looked uncomfortable because it was suddenly raining and then he took off his eye mask. The sword demon twin lost his temper and proactively jumped in again. As he tried to dodge, the male protagonist I also had to remind my juniors. There's another guy near you, so be careful. After hearing this person became startled and didn't understand why. Then his eyes wandered. He looked everywhere to see if anyone was sneaking in. Sure enough, a dark shadow on the roof suddenly flew down. This guy's skills looked so extraordinary, he just flew gracefully like a pig. Such a fairy. His two hands also use dual swords, so perhaps this is the person Lee JaHa was thinking of. Immediately he landed in his teammate's place. Cha Sung Ti is now I believed the boss's words, so I was no longer surprised. The person the male protagonist was waiting for finally appeared. The match temporarily stopped and Wee Sonwoo immediately spoke up. Right from the beginning, do you already know that there are two of us? When he received the answer, he immediately warned his younger brother that the opponent in front of him was an expert like him. Having finished speaking, the two of them matched their swords together. Rushing to attack. One fight is difficult, but now 2 fights 1 is really difficult for the male lead. I wonder what method he will have to use to deal with this. Then that guy Cha Sung Ti had to speak up to make the other two stop. I will also participate in this battle, so be careful of the back of your neck. Do you know what my title is? Invisible Sword. People won't be able to see my movements. Hurry up and die, you two bastards. As he spoke, Cha Sung Ti continuously waved his sword wildly. I'll join the fight right away, and it's 2 against 2. So he immediately chose Wee Sonwoo as his opponent. I'll deal with you first, so go to hell." After hearing that, the peerless black sword angrily jumped in to attack. Cha Sung-ti was not worried at all but took the initiative to raise his weapon to block. However, his mouth was strong but it seemed like strength. Opposite each other. As soon as they touched, the whole person fell backwards. The body started to become motionless and did not move at all. Lee JaHa was depressed when he saw this scene. "My junior is like this." He started to speak up, urging him to stop acting. "Stop acting, stand up, you're making my eyes itch." Cha Sung-ti sat up looking like the cascader is an expert in his profession. He began to explain that it was not natural for him to roll on the ground and get all his clothes dirty. Because of the rain, the road was being built, so we only tripped a little, but we almost fooled those guys. We had planned to do it. Chance that they won't pay attention and will slit their throats one by one, and you say that. Lee JaHa is depressed because he has no words to express anymore. Wee Seonwoo also looks angry. You even dare to say that directly in front of us. Looking at the opponent that the male lead's brother commented on, that bald guy is shaking all over. It seems like it's because he has no hair. So when he gets caught in the rain, he gets colder than normal people. Wee Seonwoo was scratched too much, his forehead wrinkled, his head full of veins. He just held the sword tightly and aimed straight at Cha Sung-ti. At this moment, he was so startled that he couldn't do anything. Fortunately, there was a boss next to him who quickly stood up to assist. It seemed like he alone was strong enough to take on these two guys without any effort. Thanks to that bad guy. Wee Seonwoo continued to step back and then jumped in and slashed hard. The male lead didn't need to use his sword to easily block. As soon as he collided, his force was stronger, so he to back him down made his hands tremble. Then he immediately hovered in front of him to create an artistic gesture. This is the family posture of the leader of the JaHa clan. Seeing this scene, the two twins were silent without any comment. And Cha Sung-ti exclaimed in admiration. The rain continued to get heavier, causing both sides to temporarily think for 5 seconds of advertising. Think again, this is the first time I've had this feeling since I was revived. When did fighting become so interesting? Ji Yong-soo began to pay more attention to his expression. The sword in his hand was now also out of its sheath. As expected, it was very different from martial artists who used ordinary swords. It seemed like there was some invisible power radiating around Lee JaHa's body. The sword suddenly emitted a very magical light. That made the sword invisible. But it radiated more carefully. Those who were watching were also extremely impressed. Why did that sword emit red light? The sword singer knows this better than anyone else. Both of them know that that power is the sword energy. The closer they are, the more that letter of light overflows countlessly. Lee JaHa still standing still as if waiting for the other to strike first. Both of them understood and hid it from each other. So at the same time they all jumped forward. It wasn't just simple attacks. A simple attack that was wriggling around to make the male protagonist dizzy. Then gradually they got closer and closer. In the same moment the peerless black sword immediately raised its sword high enough to attack simultaneously. But as the main character, Lee JaHa is not afraid at all. His eyes widened as if it was a counterattack. With one cut, Wee Seonwoo in the back was bleeding. Ji Yong-soo in the opposite side also suffered the same situation. Very quickly both of them were hit at the same time. But for some reason, Lee JaHa still hasn't shown any features. I was calculating a lot of things in my head and was thinking about it. Wanted to find Cha Sung-ti. You chilly guys here will surely die with my big brother. That incident was also seen by the two people in the restaurant. Then the rain gradually stopped as if the battle had ended. I wonder what Lee JaHa was thinking. Why did he still stand still and not move? Father Sung-ti immediately took the initiative to step forward and pay respects to him. He had worked very hard. He also spoke up to ask about the status of the two people who had just arrived. Died. The male lead only said a few random sentences related to the Black Cat Union. After hearing this person became panicked and scared. Black Cat Union was like that, now the Black Cat Union is like this. Here's the solution. Seeing that there was nothing left to do, he proactively left the rest to Cha Sung-ti to clean up. Watching the leader of JaHa clan leave, Chu Liang had so many words to say. Comment. It seems like what he did with the three Cho brothers was true. After that, it rained more and it was late at night. The male lead was now leisurely staying there, in the bathtub to feel the relaxation. He remembered the past when Ji Yuyang-su should have been the last and latest to die. And now there are additional forces that need to be dealt with, Black Cat Union and Black Knight Leopard. Because my head hurts so much I don't want to think anymore. I was planning on taking a nap until it was bright, but I also noticed a bit of wakefulness. Why is there suddenly noise outside? Disappeared again? Lee JaHa felt the energy from somewhere around in the hallway. Sure enough, two people with cold and not very sympathetic faces were present. They opened their mouths. The exit door makes the male lead curious. What are you guys doing here looking for me? Neither the general manager of La Hua Lao nor the general manager of Tan Hua Lao wanted to answer. Is it true that Father Sung Ti sent you all here? The silence was broken when these two men began to raise their swords straight towards him. The bathtub was cut in half as soon as the attack began. A small explosion occurred, came out and water splashed everywhere. This made them lose concentration and couldn't observe anything. Just like that, Lee JaHa approached and tried to grab both of them immediately. He touched them hard and then unleashed a huge internal attack. After that, Song Yujiam and Yoon Jungu were knocked out. With just one simple blow, both of them were immediately buried. The male lead knew well that he wouldn't bring any weapons when he took a bath, so they deliberately attacked. In his mind, he only thought of his younger brother Cha Sung-ti as the mastermind. After that, I quickly prepared my clothes and went looking for him. Asking the nearby servants, no one knew where the master was. I repeat, it's best for you to tell the truth. To you I'm telling the truth because my dad didn't come back that day after going out. After hearing that, I didn't even bother to argue with that little guy. I was calculating a lot of things in my head and was thinking about it. Wanted to find Cha Sung-ti. However, the incident came so unexpectedly that I couldn't confirm that the mastermind was Cha Sung-ti. If he really dared to point his sword at me, then see. It was like my life was over. While walking on the street, a few loud arguments caught his attention. This sounded like his younger brother's. I immediately had to investigate. Follow the source of the noise to run to check. Human corpses are all over the street without knowing the cause. It is also very possible that Cha Sung-ti caused this tragic incident. Looking at the corpses, Lee JaHa really couldn't understand. I don't know how these chilly guys got into this. In a smaller alley, the sound it seemed to have sounded very clearly. As soon as I turned my head to look, a large number of martial artists were gathered there. It turned out that my juniors were being threatened and cornered. Inside, he cowered and protested in a weak manner. This surprised Lee JaHa because perhaps he was responsible. A few people around also noticed it. His presence. Cha Sung-ti saw the boss and his heart felt like it was opened. And Lee JaHa was very satisfied because he was still alive right now. No need to ask anything. He immediately shouted loudly, hoping to be saved. You chilly guys here will surely die with my big brother. Hearing that, the whole group suddenly stopped and turned their eyes to the south. Why are you so confused? Please help me quickly. Lee JaHa looked annoyed by this rude way of addressing him. Then everyone had to go back to start. Prepare your group. Everyone, hold your swords firmly in your hands. Some guys reminded their comrades not to be afraid because the opponent is just a hotel owner. Let's rush in and kill him. After saying that, the whole group started to move around as if they wanted to skewer the male lead many times. But he was still as calm as usual without anything. The actions were very simple. Simply to suppress these useless scoundrels. One by one they were continuously knocked without missing a beat. They couldn't even touch a single hair. Just like that, nearly a dozen soldiers were knocked out right in front of them. They all lay on the ground without moving at all. Fortunately for Cha Sung-ti, he arrived in time. At this time, perhaps he has already enjoyed the good news. He saw the situation in front of him and became happy. Do you guys dare to secretly attack my father Sung-ti? Looking at the boss's direction, he also expressed his gratitude urgently. Did the sect master come directly here to save me? I never came here to kill you. After hearing this, Cha Sung-ti panicked and asked why he did something wrong. I was thinking that you were involved in the matter. Like this. Lee JaHa recounted the story of how he was leisurely taking a shower when he was plotted by Song Yujiem and Yoon Jungu. It seems like the master still doesn't fully understand the situation, besides the three brothers of their family. So there are still many other experts in this town of Nyat Duong. As you can see, being attacked like this is enough to resolve this misunderstanding, and I have absolutely nothing to do with them. After hearing it, it felt a bit reasonable, so he stopped killing, and this made Cha Sung-ti angry because he did not receive any apology. In the end, he had to ask a question. The story with his younger brother. He was still dumbfounded, waiting for the question. Besides the Black Cat Union, how many other people do we have to kill here? Because I am the owner of a hotel, I have to endure this situation, right? So how many people do we have to kill so that things like this don't happen? Since he couldn't answer, Cha Sung-ti didn't know what else to say. I'll go prepare a little, master, so relax to get rid of all these thoughts. You must prepare. Everything was so thoughtful. Then he left in a frustrated mood because he had just finished showering and had to come back to shower again. Playtime passed very quickly until the next morning. Early on, Cha Sung-ti ran out to the school to manage the construction of his new house. At his own house, he found the male lead who was still focusing on cultivating. Maybe after returning he was of the circuit sat still until the morning. Gradually, the foundation digging work was completed and the next stages moved on. After a month, the house's frame basically gradually stabilized, already like this, but the progress is only like that. What did the sect master say? The large scale should have taken a year. Hearing that the deadline was given faster than expected, Cha Sung-ti said directly, I can't do it. Things like this don't just add more human resources to make it faster. Recently we've found a pretty good project manager, so the implementation speed is faster than before. As he spoke, the other person also proactively walked over. It's this person, he is an architectural expert. The other person also said hello and introduced a few things about himself. With the male lead, he was quite a famous character when he was the sect master in his previous life, yet he was met in this situation. Cha Sung-ti repeatedly introduced Lee JaHa as the boss. Yeon Ya-sung also mentioned that he received this project through an introduction from his uncle. It is said that if this time I can complete the task well, I will give him the position. The manager of the bamboo gate at JaHa clan, right? And there's no need to pay any initiation-related fees, right? Having finished speaking, he had to confirm with the master again. I am really satisfied with those encounters. This time I will definitely build a grandiose JaHa horde. But before that, Ha wants to ask you something. This story is nothing big or short, it's just because Ya-sung wants to temporarily build a shack to make it easier to eat and sleep on the spot. I hope you can occasionally. The master will give us new and delicious dishes to enjoy together. Understanding the architect's intention, he must also give Cha Sung-ti a few orders. Arrange to divide the things. Workers at the flower shops, and then send some people over here to support. You must definitely provide food for the people working here. These things are too simple for the boss is like Cha Sung-ti. The male lead also promised that if Ya-sung builds a classy JaHa clan, he will give the position of sect leader to the manager. After saying that, he left to let the other continued to exchange professional work. While wandering in the middle of the street, he also passed Kum Chuliang's workplace. Oh boss, you're here, have you met Ya-sung yet? That little word is a very talented person. Once immersed in work, he will work hard day and night to complete it perfectly. I didn't expect that in this life I would have been able to have such a good relationship with Uncle Chu Liang. Being able to take him under his wing would be a very beneficial thing. While thinking about it, he also told me that he wanted to give him a special gift. If you want to own a certain weapon, just say so. I wonder if you have ever made things like a sword or a sword? Chuliang's answer was that he had never done it and had never seen it. In fact, he was afraid that if he did it, many people would come and take it away. Maybe it's okay to lose your life because of that. If you're luckier, you can buy and sell. Like the other guys, they'll probably look for me and continue to make weapons for you to see. Feeling that these thoughts are too reasonable, he also has a few requests for the blacksmith. I want to have a weapon that doesn't need to be too sharp and doesn't matter how heavy it is. Mainly it's not easy to break as long as it's bent and not deformed. Chu Liang guessed that the weapon could be a broken stick or a spear. For him, it didn't matter which type, just make sure surely that's okay, right? Seeing Lee JaHa's eyes, he did not ask for more details. I understand, so I also have a little gift to give to my master. Thank you for your help. With this sincerity, Lee JaHa greeted him and left immediately. Just like that, he wandered around the streets to relive the past. And then suddenly I met two mysterious guys who looked very strange. It seemed like there wasn't any sympathy among them. When one guy saw him, he immediately asked how he was. May I ask, are you really the owner of Lee JaHa? After listening, he had to think and calculate for a long time. Then he left completely and only asserted that he was just the owner of the inn. Then the other person continued to speak louder to stop. Lee JaHa had to stand still for a moment to listen to what he wanted to say. I am the messenger of the Black Mystic Union Hyuk Ryan Hong. Today there are a few words from the elder I want to convey downloaded to you here. Hearing that the clan was his rival, he also acted cautiously. Golden Phoenix Pavilion, the masters of our clan really want to meet you. I am not an assassin, just a messenger, so I hope you won't refuse. After this is over, perhaps other assassins will come here to ask about your health. As expected, that gang of delinquents is really trying to do everything. I'm here to make things difficult for you. Finally, the male lead started to raise his voice to ask again. The name Golden Phoenix Pavilion, the owners keep calling me, so I had to go. If you refuse this invitation, run away gradually. If we do this, then the owner of the mansion can survive and Ilyong town can avoid unjust deaths. If we continue to hold power here, then one is to bow to the Black Cat Union, right? If not, then you have to leave this district, right? Hyuk Ryan Hong affirms that if he continues to make trouble here, he will be humiliated. How can a polite guy be so rude? I will go see the owner of the Golden Phoenix Pavilion. I will give me time from now until evening, or do you want to leave immediately? The male lead is planning to go back to prepare a welcome gift and arrange his clothes appropriately. You just choose the location and I will find it myself. You just need to go to the manor house at the beach. It's okay to hunt at Dingu Mountain. Lee JaHa had known this place for a long time, so it wasn't difficult for him to find it. As he was about to leave, the messenger warned him again. If you want to escape, arrange it neatly and don't leave any trace, not even a strand of hair. How can the male lead leave without knowing the face of his prey like that? Later, he also returned and informed Cha Sung-ti about this. After hearing that, he was very surprised and kept stopping. That devil who killed people without his eyes called him. Is the owner coming to see you? It's not that he called me so I came, but I wanted to find it myself, do you understand? If that's the case, then I will gather my brothers to fight once and for all. Are you going to send all the young men in the district to die? No need to do that, I'll go alone. Is the sect master crazy? If he goes like that, he will surely die. No, there's no way he'll leave you alone. He's probably extremely angry because he was passed over by a hotel owner. If not, then at least you have to let me go with you. Listen, male lead, I couldn't stop sobbing. Cha Sung-ti, are you telling the truth? Then this guy started to think again and became more hesitant. In the end, he shook his head repeatedly because he was stupid enough to die. Yes, it's just a question, I'll be back soon, so don't worry. After saying that, Lee JaHa turned around and left. But Cha Sung-ti called him again to talk about something else. He quickly ran inside and brought out a robe. Please wear this when you go. Isn't this the shirt you like the most? It might be torn, so I can't wear it to go out. If that's the case, then at best I can bring it home so I can use it to clean the house. After listening, he didn't have to refuse anymore. Without waiting for it to be given to him, he grabbed it and left it alone. So Lee JaHa alone went to meet the owners of the restaurant. Golden Phoenix Pavilion. Father Sung-ti bowed respectfully and wished the master a safe journey. The male lead's attitude did not seem to care much because he thought this was a relatively simple matter. Transfer scene to the Black Cat Union's area at Dingu Mountain. The two messengers are now at the gate waiting for the male lead to arrive. They are very impatient because they thought he had run away at some point. Good. But the whistling around here made him pay more attention. Lee JaHa alone wandered to the agreed time and place. Didn't he run away? So have you decided to surrender to the Black Cat Union? As expected, this guy is truly an ambitious kid. Seeing the opponent, Hyuk Ryan Hong had so many thoughts before killing him. The three brothers of the Cho family are showing off their pride. I'll keep an eye out to see how arrogant you can be. After thinking about it, he politely opened the door and invited the male lead in. Inside, I wonder what they are planning to do after slamming the door. Lee JaHa himself is also becoming very careful with these cunning and scheming people. Inside camp, a man with a large body next to a precious sword was sitting waiting for him. It seemed like coming here didn't just stop at discussion. Ban Sa Wung was also there. A lot of thoughts and scenarios to welcome the male lead. Seeing the other person coming and hearing the introduction of his subordinates, he seemed very rude. Did you say master of the house? What the hell is the landlord to me? Having finished speaking, Ban Sa Wung also raised his eyes to observe Lee JaHa's interface more closely. I was quite wondering which brat could swallow all 3 bars like that. Wah, so I'm just a kid with a dirty nose, are you lying to me? Everything is managed by you, you're really good, I don't dare run away and show my face here, I really have many compliments for you. What an ambitious kid, his voice was mixed with a lot of murderous intent inside. But Lee JaHa didn't show any fear, on the contrary, he very quiet. Without waiting for him to speak, he took the initiative to come closer. Then he sat down on the chair right in front of him, making this guy bewildered. Ban Sa Wung roared, he dared to sit here without even receiving permission. But the male lead continued to respond tactfully. I sit here, it's my business, I don't need consent. Yours. The already gloomy atmosphere has now become terribly cold, making Hyuk Ryan Hong scared too. Is this longtime guest owner crazy, or why does he have to hide behind the devil's curse? Stuff, right? Ban Sa Wung asserted that the male lead is truly an incurable crazy person. Hearing this, he did not deny it because in fact he has been crazy since childhood. The Golden Phoenix Pavilion owner laughed loudly again. Because it's the first time I meet a very special person like this. What an interesting person, how old are you? Why are you asking about that? Today you called me here to ask your age, huh? Since you've finished talking, now it's my turn. I'll give you a few options and answer them right away. Either you want to die alone or you want me to kill everyone's subordinates here. After listening, Ban Sa Wung became angry. Why did you dare say these words to me? I originally wanted to save you, but now it's become too difficult. As he said that, he immediately pulled out the sword in his hand to do the deed. Lee JaHa is also not the right type. He jumped up high and kicked straight forward. His opponent was startled, so he quickly raised his sword to protest. But the outcome was still the same as any other weak guy. With just a light touch, that guy's big, muscular body was knocked far away. This made him go from one surprise to another. Ban Sa Wung started trying quickly regained his body's balance. Looking at his trembling hands, one could tell how powerful the previous attack was. Not only that, blood flowed from his mouth. Unconsciously, this guy looked passive. Hyuk Ryan Hong couldn't believe his eyes as he watched. Some of the other subordinates all stood on their feet, not understanding what was going on. Happened. You want to save me, but what should I do now? Do I look like the type that needs your help? Lee JaHa's cheerful voice has now disappeared and is replaced by a terrible sound. Everyone who hears it must swallow their saliva in fear. Ban Sa Wung now also feels that there are too many things that are difficult to understand because of the events in front of him. Who the hell is this bastard? Obviously he's just a hotel owner. You're screaming that you can kill me at any time. Hearing Lee JaHa's rants, the other person also became much more nervous. He put all his physical strength into his arms. Then tightly grasped the sword and ran forward to attack. With a slow body, it was impossible, there's no way to make things difficult for the male lead. Kwa was upset at the useless slash, so he let out a roar. And of course he stabbed everywhere but still couldn't reach him. Is the owner of the Golden Phoenix Pavilion just a third-rate expert? This time Lee JaHa won't let him keep martial arts in this land anymore. He bent down and found the first step. Right when he repeatedly missed. One punch then went straight into Ban Sa Wung's stomach, leaving Ban Sa Wung breathless. He staggered and fell backwards without being able to control his body. Lee JaHa did not stop there and continued to jump up to make fun of him. I don't know when he pulled out his sword from the holster and his hand was filled with sword energy. Seeing the overwhelming power that he had, I didn't have time to defend myself. A cut so fast that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye came flying. In just a moment, the heads of the owners of the Golden Phoenix Pavilion were severed from their necks. Blood. The tamarind just kept shooting out everywhere, making everyone in sight have to close their eyes. It's not clear if Lee JaHa will kill them all or only deal with this owner. So the life of Ban Sa Wang is no longer in this world. Although the surrounding subordinates were a little angry, no one dared to jump up to confront. Hyuk Ryan Hong was now scared to death because of his calculations. What a mistake. He never expected that Lee JaHa was such a strong person. He put down his sword and reminded them that if they dared to touch the inn in Ilyong district, it would end like this. The owners can't even resist, he can be defeated so easily. Does anyone else want to come up here to follow Ban Sa Wang? Sure enough, no one dared because going up would only mean death. Another person has stood up to reclaim justice. Now you are fighting the people of the Black Cat Union. Can you handle this? That's not something you should worry about right now, you should worry about your own lives. Nan Chin had to speak loudly and request that everyone kneel down on the count of 3. If anyone dares to oppose, I will send that person away along with the owners. After saying that, one hand pointed up. To start counting gradually. Although the voice is not loud, these sounds make everyone afraid. The big name is the first person to kneel down. Following that, almost everyone, all of the subordinates had to act accordingly. In the end, all the people at the Golden Phoenix Pavilion almost followed Nam Chin's words. Not sure what work he would assign to these bad guys. Here, just looking at them, I have so many vague thoughts in my head. The fact that I was so attached to the devil and practiced the exercises that I couldn't even go to the bathroom in time. Those reasons are all in return for today's work. Because of these moments, all my previous efforts are worth it. Lee JaHa is truly a person with so many moods that makes everyone love him. The surrounding space seemed to be very quiet, then someone spoke up. Will you spare all of our lives? This is a rather redundant question, why do we have to do this? Is that so? Didn't we say that if we kneel, our lives will be spared? I only said that if we protest, we will send you off with the masters, but we didn't say we would spare our lives. No, there was nothing he could do, so that guy had to lower his voice to ask for a way to live. But there was no reason for Lee JaHa to do that. If you kill all of us, then we have no choice but to fight until our last breath. You also know how to negotiate, so let's clarify your status first. After listening, Sima Bai immediately introduced herself. I'm an assassin. This name really doesn't have the slightest impression on the male lead. He definitely died along with Ban Sa Wang during the purge of the Black Cat Union. If your ability is equivalent to our masters, we can completely join forces and defeat you. But it seems like you haven't shown your full ability yet, right? That's why Han called some of his brothers to restrain themselves. Speaking of this, he doesn't know what story to find to prolong his life. Smart people just through common sense, if a person is agile, that person is always a survivor. Understanding these favorite words, he seemed very happy to be alive. But then I immediately thought back to the fate of the surrounding subordinates. Obviously, we have to deal with everyone who knows who will secretly report. The current situation, if the battle with the Black Cat Union, what happened to me, is quite tiring. Let's all rush in for the rest. Even though the army is much larger, it seems like no one wants to do such a crazy thing. Feeling that the opponent did not attack, Lee JaHa immediately pulled out his sword to deal with it. But Sima Bai tried to stop us. If we completely surrender, that would be okay, right? How can we believe that? But you can trust it for the time being. How could Lee JaHa choose to trust this newly acquired name? From a quick glance, you can understand a few things about their internal affairs. The way you dress and speak, you will definitely be the successor of that boss, right? The leader of the Golden Phoenix Pavilion is dead. If you report to headquarters without any injuries, will you be able to survive? And all the rest of the people here are the same. You shouldn't have been allowed to run away, you should have fought and died right next to your masters. Either way, you will be tied. He was branded a traitor, so sooner or later he would be purged. These words were certainly not wrong at all, so everyone lowered their heads and looked lost. Because he was so impatient, Lee JaHa, I couldn't wait any longer, so I repeatedly reminded them to stand up and fight. But Sima Bai once again stopped me. "I have a way, please listen to me and decide later. I seen this situation, only Zhuge Liang can come back from his grave to save you guys. Just confess that the owners embezzled money from the manor, that's his crime. And we will all speak up to testify to this. In fact, the owners of Golden Phoenix Pavilion have kept a huge amount of money. If headquarters knew, he would of course die and no one would tell. Half a word. We will bring that money to Ilyang district, because if we use that money, we will inevitably be suspected of being accomplices. So because of such a situation, you won't reveal it to the Black Cat Union and want me not to kill you, right?" Even though it was a bit annoying, what happened next had nothing to do with me. Feeling that Sima Bai's words were a bit reasonable, he temporarily ignored them. After that, he continued to communicate. "Give him one more job." Hearing the name of the strategist, he expressed admiration. The person's name is Sima Bai, so we have to call him the strategist, right? Until now, Sima Bai and Zhuge Liang have always been the top strategists that people in the Jianhu wanted to recruit. Then the other person immediately asked why that was so. If Lee JaHa knew, he probably wouldn't be standing here. After that, all the money from the Golden Phoenix Pavilion was transferred to Lee JaHa's residence.